Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Inside the Parenting Matrix with me, Bryan Post. Happy day to you. I hope you've had a fantastic week. I hope you've had amazing breakthroughs in your homes, in your families, in your professional practices, in whatever area that Inside the Parenting Matrix is able to support and encourage you. Today, we've got a very interesting little video. This actually comes from Facebook. It is of a kid throwing, I think, an 8-hour tantrum on an airplane. So it's going to be interesting. I am someone who's traveled a great deal over the last 20 years, and there have been multiple occasions where there have been children who have felt challenged with the woes of traveling. And so this little tired traveler, I think he was really stressed out, and he obviously stressed out a lot of adults around him. So I think we're just going to look at this, look at some of the dynamics that are played the best we can. I mean, it's not like we're live and looking right at the kiddos, so we'll have to make some assumptions. But I think that there will be some breakthroughs available. Let's take a look. Brace yourself because there is a lot of screaming.
Let's get up, honey. Let me get his iPad and get the Wi-Fi going. The iPad and the Wi-Fi. Yes, I know. We don't have the Wi-Fi connection yet. No. Okay. I haven't asked to take off. Yeah.
So you can see the caption here. The plane has not even taken off yet. The attendant's trying to help get the Wi-Fi turned on. I think that's what the parent is saying to the attendant. We need to get the Wi-Fi turned on. Obviously, a child who probably spends a lot of time in front of electronics, I'm assuming, since that's the goal, is to get the electronics going. And it says, finally, it quiets a bit while the kid is free to run through the plane. So now he's just running through the plane unattended. I'm not sure how old he is yet. So let's just keep watching until we can see how old he is.
It's a kid running. Your mom's right here.
It's okay. It's okay. Sonny, come over here. Let me go.
So it says, Mom lets the kid do whatever he wants throughout the flight. It's interesting. So this is the child right here. We're going to assume that he's about 3 years old, or he could be a really kind of a tall 2-year-old. So it's a little stressful even for me listening to it. So I can only imagine being on the flight, and the flight's been so stressful as it is. So this is 2 hours in, and this young man is surprisingly nonverbal. So lots of screaming, which I think is indicative of definitely a regressed emotional state. Wow, that was intense. 8 hours of screaming, the guy says. I want to try to get a visual of the kiddo.
There's a kid running.
So that's the little culprit right there. So he's not screaming right here, but he's screaming the rest of the time. And he doesn't look like he's in physical distress. So my first question obviously would be, is he in some kind of physical distress that's causing this extreme expression? My second, once that's assessed for, and we know that he's not, obviously this is a conditioned state. Crying is a universal signal for distress, for not knowing how to accomplish something, not knowing how to meet one's own needs. So we cry in order to have our needs met. It feels as though this young man is consistently not being attuned to. The caregiving is misattuned in some really core way. And the mom must feel really overwhelmed. So we have a lot of social humiliation and shame at play, or perhaps not. Perhaps that speaks to the general misattunement between the parent and the child. Perhaps the parent doesn't pay it any attention whatsoever, which is then leaving the child significantly dysregulated and unattended, emotionally unattended. And, perhaps this child comes from an orphanage and he's been left to scream, for long periods of time. We don't know all the details. All we know is what's going on here on the plane. And I'm going to tell you what I would suggest. I would suggest that the parent, once the plane is up in the air, the parent takes the child into the bathroom and they sit in the bathroom. And she tried to soothe him and regulate him. There are plenty of other bathrooms on the plane. Go in the bathroom, and the reason you go in the bathroom, one is because number one and the biggest is because it's contained space. All of the sensory opportunities, the lights, the sounds, the pressurization, the smells are all significantly reduced by going into the small confinement of the bathroom. Number two, mom no longer has to face the social pressures and humiliation of all the other stressed out individuals. Everyone's amygdala is being alarmed and being activated. That's what a cry does. A cry comes from the amygdala active state of activation, and it activates everyone else's amygdalas. That's why, unless you're a really mindful, conscious adult, most of the time a crying child will really stress you out because it's continually ringing your amygdala, because from an evolutionary standpoint, that's what's supposed to happen. The adult's amygdala is supposed to be alarmed so that you'll come and then secure the needs of the child, save the child, protect the child, take care of the child. But in this trapped plane, and when you're already traveling, you're already out of your comfort, then stress is already heightened. Traveling is a very stressful situation. So I would suggest that mom would have a bottle for a child this age with this level of dysregulation. He probably needs to be bottled. He could probably be nursed even. If she didn't have a bottle, he could be nursed. But I'm assuming that this is probably not a freak occurrence with this young man. So we have some ideas that he's prone towards being stressed out. He's prone towards regression, being an infant. Now he's 4 years old here, so obviously physically, he's chronologically and physically he's 4, but emotionally 3. I'm going to say 3 to 4, but emotionally he is not there. He is a wailing, scared, overwhelmed infant. So I would suggest mom take him into the bathroom, to the back of the plane, contain the environment, and soothe him. Maybe if she doesn't have a bottle with her, well, she should practice carrying her bottle for this particular child. She gets him a graham cracker and some juice and some milk. And she just keeps him in the bathroom. She feeds him the crackers. She holds him. She rocks him. They breathe together. She breathes. She massages his back, soothes him, truly soothes him and regulates him without any pressures of having to go anywhere. They're on an 8-hour flight. There's nowhere to go. There's plenty of bathrooms. And I can assure you, the passengers rather have this mom and this kid in a bathroom than they would out in the open screaming and yelling and running up and down, terrorizing everyone. So that would be the most prudent course of action in a scenario such as this. So if you're an airline attendant and you're watching this, number one, the first thing you do have to do is you have to calm yourself, because your regulatory ability is the most important thing for the whole plane. You are the significant regulatory figure on an airplane as the flight attendant. The next thing is to realize that mother's anxiety is sky high. So I'm not even focused on the child yet. So I'm focused on the flight attendant, and then I'm focused on the mother's anxiety. Calming the mother, letting her know that you understand, you're okay, she's going to be okay, and that you're going to get through it, and that you're going to support her. Then number 3 suggests, mom, it's probably too stressful for him out here and for you. Why don't we escort you guys to the bathroom? We'll let you stay in the bathroom for a while and see if we can help get him calm. We'll get him some graham crackers. We'll get him some chips. We'll get your iPad. You guys can sit and watch a cartoon together. You can hold him. If we can get to any deeper challenges, then that's what we'll do. But ultimately, you have a child who has very little regulatory ability, regresses to an infantile state, a mother who seems to be woefully challenged in being able to be his significant regulatory figure, and then a bunch of adults that are probably completely overwhelmed and stressed out. So that's what we do when we operate outside of the parenting matrix. And I think that this is probably a much more common occurrence than you all can imagine that ever happens on flights every single day, because kids are, it's just like someone mentioned, this is proof that all the electronics that children can be subjected to. This is an interesting point. It makes me think of something. Research says that the reason children are so focused on electronics and electronics become addictive is usually not for the reason that a lot of adults think. We think that children become dependent on electronics because of the stimulation and because of they're lazy and they don't like to do anything, and the electronics just keep them from accomplishing anything. But the reality is that when a child is gaming, they actually move into a state in their brain called a flow state. A flow state is in between boredom and anxiety, and is actually an optimally chemically producing state of the brain. So it's between boredom and between anxiety, you hit a state of flow. And occasionally we all enter into that, usually in work and in our own, play or shopping or whatever the situation may be, where time collapses and you start working before you know it, it's the end of the day. That's hitting a flow state. A flow state can also be very exhausting. So a lot of times that's why children are irritable when they get off of their games finally. It's because they've been in flow all day. So it is actually the flow state that becomes addictive in the gaming, and it's a very calm state, but at the same time it is maximizing the body's output of chemicals, endorphins and norepinephrine and other related stress hormones and excitement hormones. So that's why children get hooked on gaming, not because of just the games themselves, but because the chemical production in the brain, and it's putting them in a peak state of performance. And then who doesn't enjoy being in a peak state of performance? If we could recreate that all the time. And isn't that why adults do extreme games? Isn't that why we drive fast? Isn't that why we do, we live on the edge? Because we like to get in that peak state. It feels good there, although it's very exhausting. So that's something for you to think about. Thank you again for tuning in and joining me for Inside the Parenting Matrix. And just remember, in any given situation, we always have two choices. We can just get stressed out and overwhelmed and get mad at that mom and send her vibration after vibration of negativity and overwhelm, or we can stop. We can take 3 to 10 deep breaths. We can slow down, and we can choose love. God bless. We'll see you again next week.